Every nightmarish monster you can think of has roots in something human. In my culture's folklore, our ghouls and legendary beasts come from the real horrors that Spanish conquistadors brought when they enslaved our indigenous people in the 1500s. Education everywhere often skips the barbaric accounts of colonial abuse, particularly that of the encomienda system. An encomienda, in short, was a grant from the Spanish king given to conquerors in the Americas, which gave them a legal authority to demand tribute and forced labor from enslaved indigenous people. You can probably imagine then how this system drove thousands of indigenous people to early and agonizing deaths. For that reason, the inhabitants of my city deem our local rainforest, La Mina, a cursed site. As the legend goes, 3 particularly avaricious and sadistic slave masters forced the natives to build a cathedral deep in the rainforest, where they would mercilessly punish those who did not meet their demanded tribute. Hernan, alias Bone Crusher, would use a mace to smash the limbs of anyone who did not bring him enough gold to fill his armor suit. Fernando, alias Widowmaker, would burn alive any man or his family who did not bring him 2 full bags of silver. Antonio, alias Gravemaster, would impale then bury alive those who brought him any other metal or mineral other than copper. Known collectively as the 3 Kings, they met their morbid but deserved deaths when the natives revolted and forcibly poured the molten versions of their desired metal down their throats. Before their death, the 3 Kings gave their souls to the devil, in exchange for the devil also trapping the souls and treasures of the deceased natives in the rainforest with them. The treasures of this cathedral has therefore also become a legend. However, it is also stated anyone who enters La Mina to hunt it descends into madness due to the wailing of the tortured souls trapped in the trees. Some others have reported ghosts with broken limbs trudging around looking for gold and ripping apart any living person who passes by. No one, not even corrupt government officials, nor illegal miners, nor tourists, had gone into the rainforest and made it out unscathed. So you can imagine my heart's dread when my younger brother Pedro went missing in La Mina. The rumors of treasure hidden deep in a haunted cathedral would entice any poor, desperate man to test his fortunes. These were only legends after all. Hell, no one was even sure if the cathedral existed. Inequality and poverty are ultimately legacies of colonialism. And if I had to confront the demons of the past to save Pedro, my only living relative, so be it. With a hidden rosary, food, water, and a book of indigenous prayers, I embarked into the forest on the search for my brother. Pedro and I grew up obsessed but fascinated with the tales of the 3 Kings, and knew the supposed route to the cathedral by heart. After all, one will cling on to fantasy when real life becomes too miserable. The tales said that I would encounter the souls of the dead in the trees, and they didn't lie. I saw them everywhere, both day and night, and their sobs told me of the agonizing limbo they now lived in. However, they didn't attack me, because through my prayers I communicated I had no intentions of harming them or stealing the supposed treasure. In fact, I asked in an indigenous language about the cathedral, although some spirits continued crying and carrying on as normal. A few child ghosts encircled me. They tilted their heads in such a way that they showed they questioned my presence, and I pulled out a picture of my brother. One ghost, seemingly deformed from burns, signaled for me to follow him. I don't know what compelled me to travel with him, but his presence didn't feel evil. After 2 nights of travel, the deformed ghost child and I arrived at a rusty broken gate and a mossy broken brick wall which encircled a perimeter. Next to the broken gate lied a hammer and a silver coin, both which I recognized belonged to Pedro. As I picked up the hammer to further examine it, the ghost child began to screech as if in terror. As I looked at him floating in the air and cowering in fear, one of his tiny hands did a motion like that of a hammer smashing onto his other hand. Then he pointed in the direction inside of the gate. Although I had nothing to thank him with, or to calm him down, I tried giving him the silver coin. His tiny shaking hands took the silver coin and he looked at it, before quietly sobbing and withering away. I decided to enter the gate, which led to the stone path into the darkness of the forest. As I walked, I heard a distinctive crushing sound like that of a bone cracking. It had to have been my mind playing tricks on me, right? No. I looked over my shoe, and surely enough, the remains of a broken rib cage lied in front of me. Who goes there? Pedro. That soft but proud voice could have been nothing else. Pedro, it's Camilo, your brother. Where are you? Over here, in front of the cathedral. I followed his voice, crossed some trees, and I couldn't believe my eyes. The Spanish colonial architecture was unmistakable. We had found the famed cathedral of the Three Kings, the Gothic building overtaken by the floral life of the jungle. Could not be seen in entirety due to an ominous fog in front of the entrance. No more nights without a bite to eat, Camilo. We can buy our own house like we always dreamed about. No more stealing, no more. Just look at this bag. I could not believe my eyes. My brother, unkempt and muddy, had with him a duffel bag of raw gold and silver. Camilo, I think there's more treasure inside, and we could fit more into the bag. I know entering the fog of a 500-year-old cathedral sounds crazy, but... I had to interrupt him. I didn't travel this journey just to fall into the trap of my own greed. We're getting too greedy. This is enough for us to live comfortably and get back on our feet. We're already here. We may as well. Plus, I want to see what the inside of the cathedral looks like. You never know what other artifacts we could find. Just because one can do something does not mean they should. I wish we had just left. But one could never change my stubborn brother. Not even the deep voice from the fog. You think that you can just steal from us and walk away? Yeah, says who? From the entrance of the fog in the cathedral, 3 humanoid silhouettes emerged in front of us. The leftmost one carried a shield and a torch, whose light revealed its silver breastplate and gorget. The rightmost one wore a helmet which covered its head, and carried a large spear. The centermost one carried a large mace on both of its brutish hands. The 3 figures notably smelt of wax, and from their stomachs leaked some sort of fluid which stained the rocks they walked on. Every step they took forward unleashed wails of agony from the trees around us, like those of people dying. Deformed ghosts all around us appeared, and many dropped to their knees as if begging for mercy from these figures.
You awaken our souls and bring us to the mortal realm, away from our rule in hell. You're neither the first to find us here, nor the last to die for it. Seize them, dogs.
The tortured souls, just like hungry hyenas, surrounded Pedro and I. Their forceful spirits knocked us down and began to slowly drag us towards the cathedral and the kings. The centermost king slammed his mace onto the ground, as if to demonstrate its power, and I could feel the weapon's thud. It was real, and ready to smash us to pieces. From my pocket, I took out the rosary I had packed with me, and the deformed ghosts which held me began screeching as if in fear. They let me go, but that attracted many others to our location. However, these ghosts became noticeably angrier at the sight of the rosary. One could just feel the wrath of their souls screeching around me. The earth around us shook, and they were ready for vengeance. If these ghosts wanted to rip someone to shreds, it would not be me. In my swiftness, I hurled the rosary at the kings. The king with the torch picked up the rosary and let out a baleful laugh.
God does not love the Indian. You think he showed these dogs mercy? Why would he show it to their descendants?
Pedro slammed his fist on the ground. That phrase seemingly angered him. You collect these souls like you collected jewels. You stripped them of their humanity and made them buy the air they once breathed and their blood. You dare say I'm stealing from you. Your God may be cruel, but it will not match what I will do to you. Pedro, a man devoted to learning and preserving the indigenous language, began preaching passionately to the ghosts like if giving a sermon. I wish I could tell you, good listener, what Pedro said. It is impossible even for me to do his sermon justice and translate exactly what Pedro uttered to those souls in the dark forest. Some pains and experiences are just never meant to be understood, even if translated to the fullest extent. Pedro spoke as the descendant of a community decimated by colonialism and ignored by modern standards. Pedro's pains and reasons for coming to this forest spoke heavily to these ghosts, who horrifyingly enough became servants to these wicked monsters even in the afterlife. However, that night, they would no longer serve these tyrants. The ghosts, wrathful, and all with various deformities, swarmed the three kings. Even with their combat skills, the kings were overwhelmed. No gunpowder, prayer, or suit of armor could save them now. The centermost king swung his hammer, which seemingly crushed the silhouettes of various ghosts. However, the ghosts disarmed him and began beating his legs with the hammer. One could hear the bones crack as the rightmost king also fell, and his rotting face was revealed when his helmet was ripped off. The leftmost king fell last, as the ghost took his shield, and I will never know his grisly afterlife demise due to the light of his torch going out. Before the torch went out, the ghost kept tearing and skinning the kings as they dragged them into the cathedral and the fog itself. As the three kings fell, various parts of the cathedral crumbled along with it, and it is possible that the entire building collapsed. The full treasure is surely now never meant to be found again. I may not be able to tell you the overall fate of the three kings, nor of the cathedral, but I can tell you, however, that even when the ghosts allowed me to leave the forest, their pain was not magically relieved with the fall of these tyrants. In fact, our local news stations say weather around La Mina has become noticeably more violent. I recently made Pedro's tombstone as well, and I'll be leaving flowers for it tomorrow morning. What? Did you think that the ghosts would not rip him limb from limb after seeing the bag of gold he tried taking? Not even his sermon could save him. His greed doomed him, like it doomed the kings. The curse of the three kings, the legacies of colonialism, cannot be forgotten so easily with simple prayers or with the crumbling of monuments. Dismantling the colonial matrix of power goes far beyond the afterlife.